Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled people story. When my wife and I bought our house last year, one of the biggest selling points was the community pool that came with access for all the homeowners in the neighborhood. We were so excited to finally have a pool again after years of living in an apartment. Our two kids had been begging us for one, and we thought this neighborhood pool would be the perfect compromise. Shortly after we moved in, we got a visit from Tom, the president of the local Homeowners Association. He seemed friendly enough at first, welcoming us and letting us know about upcoming neighborhood events and meetings. But then he shifted gears and started pressuring us to join the Homeowner Association. It's really important that all homeowners on this block be part of the Homeowner Association, he said. It's the only way we can make decisions that are best for the entire community. I politely declined, saying we didn't want the expense or commitment of joining. I figured that would be the end of it. Boy, was I wrong. A few weeks later, right as summer was starting, I took the kids out to the pool for the first time. We were only there for about 10 minutes when Tom came marching over. "You need to leave immediately," he demanded. "The pool is for homeowner association members only." I was stunned. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "This pool comes with the house. All the homeowners on the block have access." "Not anymore," Tom said sternly. "The Homeowner Association Board just voted last week that only dues-paying members can use the pool from now on." I started arguing with him, but he cut me off. "Rules are rules," he said. "You can join any time if you want access again." And with that, he gestured for us to get out of the water. My kids were so upset that their first pool day had been ruined. I was fuming as I gathered our things and took the crying kids back home. We had been so excited for the summer, and now we couldn't even use the pool that we were promised when we bought the house? It was completely unfair. When I told my wife what happened, she was equally angry. We agreed we had to fight back against the homeowner association on this. I had seen online that homeowner associations couldn't take away promised amenities like that just because someone refused to join. I printed out the relevant laws to prove our point and brought them with me to the next homeowner association board meeting. But Tom and the rest of the board didn't want to hear it. They claimed the pool belonged solely to the homeowner association, not the whole neighborhood. They said if I wanted access for my family, I'd have to pay my dues like everyone else. Things only got worse from there. Tom and the homeowner association board got increasingly hostile and threatening over the summer. They put threatening notices on our door, warning there would be consequences if we tried to access the pool again. One board member even verbally harassed my wife, spewing profanities at her when he saw her walking our dog past the pool. It was unbelievable how quickly they turned on us. By the end of summer, I'd had enough of their bullying. I decided to fight fire with fire. I hired a lawyer and took the homeowner association to court for revoking our pool access. My lawyer was confident we had an airtight case. State law clearly said homeowner associations couldn't restrict previously guaranteed amenities without very good reason. Wanting more money from dues was not a good reason. Things moved quickly once we filed the lawsuit. The homeowner association tried to claim the pool belonged solely to them, but our lawyer produced the original neighborhood plans showing the pool was a community amenity for all residents. Faced with clear evidence they were in the wrong, the homeowner association gave in and settled out of court. They restored pool access to all homeowners, regardless of homeowner association membership. It felt so good to stick it to Tom and his cronies. They way overstepped their bounds because they got a little power trip from running the homeowner association. To celebrate our legal victory, we invited all the neighbors for a big pool party at the end of the summer. It was a great big middle finger to the homeowner association board members who had to sit and watch all the non-members enjoying the pool. Petty, maybe. But after the hell they put my family through all summer, we deserved a little pettiness. In the end, we decided we still didn't want to join the homeowner association. It was nice to deny them our dues money after the stunts they pulled. And anytime they tried to give us trouble again, we reminded them we wouldn't hesitate to take legal action just like last time. The neighborhood has stayed pretty peaceful since then. I think the lawsuit scared the homeowner association board straight. Tom even came by to apologize, which I doubt was his own idea. The other board members probably made him do it. He's still as smug as ever when I see him around the neighborhood, but he keeps his mouth shut knowing I won't put up with any more of his power trips. Standing up to our homeowner association was one of the most satisfying things I've ever done. They messed with the wrong person when they tried to take away something my family was entitled to. I'm just glad I knew my rights well enough to fight back. Our neighborhood pool access will be forever safe from homeowner association shenanigans thanks to us standing our ground. The next one is a pro-revenge story. I worked at a call center for an insurance company. I was a sales and service consultant looking to move up within the company, so I was always looking to complete additional tasks to improve my chances of gaining the next promotion. As some of you may know, call centers are usually quite toxic and involve micromanaging employees until they hate themselves. This call center was no different. One of the biggest company focuses at the time was our online self-service center, SSC. Basically, it was to assist customers in moving their transactions online so that we didn't have 1,000 calls a day asking for something small such as a change of registration number or updating the address their vehicle was parked at. Consultants were required to promote, read force feed, the SSC to every customer on every call. In the office were roughly 13 team leaders, as well as a senior manager. Each team had roughly 15 people, so altogether there were about 150. 200 people on the floor. Each team leader had their own idea of how it should be promoted and forced that ideology down the throat of their consultants. The most common process was to promote it immediately at the start of the call. You can imagine this was a mess as you call your insurance company for help, and they tell you to jump online before they even discuss or acknowledge your call, which is frankly extremely rude customer service. Additionally, the consultants never received proper training for the SSC, so they were not 100% sure of what processes you could and could not complete online. So no matter what the customer called for, the consultant would tell them at the start of the call they could complete it online. Now, back to me completing additional tasks. I decided to take ownership of the SSC and to help educate my fellow consultants on how we could better promote the online service. I had lengthy conversations with consultants to determine why they were uncomfortable promoting the SSC, and, big surprise, there were two main reasons. They felt it was rude to promote it at the start of the call, and they did not know what processes you could complete online. I organized a presentation with the team leaders and discussed my findings, and asked for their thoughts. I was greeted with a fair bit of tirade, which went along the lines of, "We have taught our consultants the right way. You're just a consultant yourself, so we know better than you do, and until you prove otherwise, we won't listen to your suggestions at all." I had a chat with the senior manager, and I told him that the reason we were experiencing low digital promotion numbers was that the team leaders did not understand the capabilities of the SSC and were forcing consultants to promote the service even if they were not sure if their request could be completed online. His exact words were, "Prove it, and I'll take your side on this." I waited until the next big presentation, which included the senior manager, team leaders, and all of their consultants. I requested 10 minutes for a quick presentation on the SSC, and my senior manager agreed without asking what I was planning to do. Cue the malicious compliance. I created a 20-question true-false quiz on the functionality and capability of the SSC, and handed one copy and a pen to each of the team leaders and asked them to fill it in quickly. The look of horror on each of their faces as they received the quiz and realized they knew nothing about the SSC was amazing to see. Their consultants were all smiling ear to ear, as they could see the point I was trying to prove. 10 minutes later, I read out the answers and got the team leaders to mark the sheet of the person seated next to them. It wasn't a surprise when they read out the name of the team leader and their score. None of them scored more than 10-20. The senior manager was seated in the corner of the room with a little smile on his face as he watched this all unfold. He had a chat with me afterward and let me go through with the presentation I had planned for the SSC. Digital promotion numbers increased from 13% to 85% within the space of a week. The next one is a petty revenge story. A few years ago, my college sports team was flying out for a competition. We were departing from our own town, which has a notoriously quick and easy airport experience for those of us who know it well. When flying alone, it's generally no sweat to show up only an hour before, or even less. However, this is always a risk in all airports, even the small ones. Our team of 20 people showed up for our early flight 2 hours beforehand, which, in my opinion, is still cutting it close in many cases. When we arrived, we immediately noticed a long line at security, which is not normal at all for this airport. We all had to check our bags and get in line, where every once in a while an employee would walk through the line asking people to look at their tickets for TSA pre-check, which means you basically get to go straight through the security line. While we were waiting for an unusually long time, we started to notice a lot of different people in front and behind us who were all about to miss the same flight. Some people were clearly anxious and asking the employees what was going on. Unfortunately, about 20 people behind my team and me, there was a Karen. Karen's flight was leaving in 30 minutes, and I noted the fact that she was behind us in line, which meant she probably just showed up only half an hour before her flight was scheduled to depart. Insanity. For the next 30 minutes, Karen was pushing past people, some of them on the same flight as her, without asking for any sort of permission. She was also yelling loudly this whole time at any employee she saw about how they were incompetent and needed to let her through, etc. She was also demanding that they open up the other security lanes so more people could go through faster. Obviously, TSA guidelines weren't a concern for this Karen. So, finally, Karen literally pushed her way through the line to about 5 people away from where my team was waiting, and there was no way we were letting her through. This is when I decided to get a little revenge for all those poor employees and all the other nice and respectful people waiting there. Being at the back of the line, my friend and I told the few people between Karen and ourselves that they could skip ahead of our whole team because they were also on the flight that Karen was about to miss. They went through, and finally, Karen got there expecting us to let her through too. Ha-ah! We told her that she was very rude to the employees, and we weren't going to let her pass. She tried to shove past us, which was hilarious. She huffed and puffed behind us and mumbled a bunch of stuff about us the whole rest of the way through the line. So we were finally about 3 people away from where our IDs were checked. Karen had finally stopped yelling at every single possible employee that came by because we were so close to the front. Remember when I mentioned earlier the employee who came by to remind us to look for TSA pre-check on our boarding passes? Well, turns out Karen was yelling over or at this guy the whole time and never got the info. And when she finally started actually listening to the people who worked there, she found out she could have skipped the entire line from the very beginning of this story. Amazing. I swear some people laughed out loud when she went, "Oh, I have that." The next one is a malicious compliance story. So I work in online fulfillment at a large home, garden, and building supply store. Mysterious. My job title comes into play later, as technically we aren't supposed to work with customers directly, just point them in the right direction or find another associate who works in that department. I had a massive order to grab, several heavy and large pieces of sheet metal and screws. Problem is, the sheet metal size I need isn't where it's meant to be, so I'm having to scan pretty much everything to figure out what's what. Bigger problem? This lingering in the wild sadly put me in range of a Wild Karen attack. Wild Karen, raging harpy voice. "Are you gonna help me or not?" Yours truly, suddenly very confused, looking at her, especially as she hasn't spoken to me at all. Wild Karen, increasingly annoyed, seeming, "Well, I've been standing over there forever, and you haven't offered to help me." Yours truly. My bad. I can try, I don't work in this department, so it depends if... Wild Karen, suddenly actively hostile. "Try? No, you will. It doesn't matter if you work in this department or not." Yours truly, taking calming breaths so I don't lash back, wondering what this woman's problem is. "Okay, what do you need?" Definitely unable to control annoyance in my tone as this woman is yelling at me. Wild Karen, this... Not joking when I say proceeds to suddenly pull out a screw and nearly stab me in the eye, shoving it towards me. Yours truly pushes her hand away, feeling much less calm as I have a PTSD reaction to people putting hands in my face, much less a feckin' screw now visibly shaking. "Okay, ma'am, screws are at the end of this aisle. On the left what?" Wild Karen. "I already know that." Yours angrily. "Okay, what size is that? What size do you need?" Wild Karen, even angrier for some reason. "You tell me." Takes a step closer as if trying to seem threatening. Yours angrily, unable to hold back. "I have no clue, ma'am. There's an entire wall of screws. It's impossible for me to tell its size by just looking at it." Wild Karen. "You will not come at me like that." Says me like she's royal, and I should feel afraid. "Your manager would not like that." Yours no longer giving a duck. "You think? Well, I can get a manager if you'd like. Maybe one of them can identify the screw by sight." Wild Karen. "Don't make me mad today. Just do your job." Cue what could count as malicious compliance. yours fecking over. This idiot realizes I had already told her exactly where the product she needed would be located. Yes, ma'am. I walked away from her to my trolley and proceeded to continue looking for the items on my order. Wild Karen. What are you doing? Yours freely. My job. What was funny was, an aisle over, one of our assistant managers actually was nearby. With Karen ranting and stomping like a toddler, I walked over when I noticed him and told him I had 2 issues. 1, can't find the item. 2, got Karen he may want to talk to. He laughed and showed me where the correct size sheet metal improperly was and totally ignored her, same as I was, until she huffed loudly and stormed away. I don't think she liked that my manager did like how I handled the situation. The next one is an entitled people story. I've been a retail manager for a drugstore chain for over a decade. I've had a wide spectrum of employees. But this employee, we'll call him Ken, was the worst of them all. At the end of the night, the employees share responsibilities for cleaning, sweeping, and organizing the store. Ken constantly gave a response that he didn't sign up to be a janitor. He refused to do anything else beyond cashiering, and there were times he lacked in that as well. Ken was constantly calling off and ditching work. After we gave him a written warning and his not showing up became excessive, we cut his hours. When he continued to ditch, his hours were cut to the bare minimum. Shortly after, Ken started to whine for a raise, specifically an increase of $10 per hour. Me, being a shift manager, I do not make $10 more per hour than Ken. He started to complain that he wasn't paid enough so he couldn't pay his rent, adding on that we would all have to answer for it. I reminded him that the company was paying a commission on a luxury skincare line, $5 commission per product. Sell 2 an hour, you got your $10 raise. He whined that it was too much work. A customer who was the manager of a movie theater offered him a part-time job. He was fired a week later for bad attendance, 2 no-shows and 3 tardies. I told him that the local car dealership was hiring. They were paying the same we paid per hour plus commission. Ken scoffed and said that he didn't want a sales job. I told him that the local Red Lobster was hiring. Ken scoffed and said serving was too much work. Ken constantly complained that we only criticized him and never praised him. I told him praise is earned, not given. I believe somewhere in Ken's mind he was doing a great job and was irreplaceable. Quite often, Ken said he was going to play in the NFL and be extremely wealthy someday. He also said that his parents kicked him out of their house and made him get a job, ruining his dreams. At this time, I had several employees who had just graduated from high school, this being their first job. Ken was 28 years old, only a year younger than me. This is the type of behavior I was expecting from my teen employees, not someone in his late 20s. I think it's safe to say Ken wanted to get paid a lot for doing nothing and didn't realize he's an adult. So one day, another manager and I had to bring Ken back into the office to talk to him about his whining and an incident. Ken tried to get out of us if he was going to get fired. We told him the store manager was going to decide. When we wouldn't give a straight answer, Ken said he quit and left his name badge behind. He continued walking out the door, scoffing, saying how this place sucks, he's out of here for good, and that we were going to be sorry. That manager and I both wrote affidavits saying what happened. I had all the other on-duty employees write affidavits describing what Ken said. Ken came back the next day to collect his paycheck. He left saying we would all pay for what we did to him and that we'd all be sorry. I think in Ken's mind, he thought he was a star employee. A few weeks later, we got notification that Ken had filed for unemployment. Thanks to all our affidavits and some video footage, it was proof enough that Ken quit on his own accord, meaning no unemployment. Some of you might be asking why Ken had not been fired early on. Ken was black and kept screaming discrimination and racism at management. There was another black worker, a great employee. HR had been notified of his claim. Under HR's advice, to prevent discrimination lawsuits, document more bad acts and poor workmanship. So far, we have received no lawsuits from Ken, and I believe his statute of limitations has expired. The next one is an entitled parents story. I am 21 years old and a college student in my senior year. I was fortunate enough to secure 2 different jobs on campus. Not entirely relevant, but it ties in. I work in the residence halls at my campus. One of these jobs pays me twice a semester as it splits the pay for both my housing and meal plan, covering those expenses. The other job pays me every 2 weeks, and both jobs are laid back. Here's the problem. Whenever I receive the money left over from books and fees, my mom always expects me to give her a portion of it. She has even gone as far as checking my school's website to find out when school refunds are expected to deposit. During the week of deposits, she starts questioning me about how much I'm getting back and how much I'm planning to give her. I usually tell her that I'm getting enough back without specifying the amount because she wants half of what I receive. I distinctly remember giving her $700 from my refund once because she found out how much I was getting back. It was my birthday at the time, and I was unhappy about it because I wanted to use the money for myself. Somehow she spent the money within a few days and claimed she used it to pay bills. She then told me that I would have to pay for her meals as well as her fiancé's, not my dad, because they didn't have the money. I asked her what happened to the money I gave her, and she proceeded to guilt-trip me by saying, "You're supposed to help family. I gave birth to you and took care of you all those nights when you were a baby, and I was tired." Essentially, she was giving me the whole, "you should help me because I gave you life" speech. She even tried to ask me for money to buy her fiancé a Valentine's Day gift. Fast forward to now, and I'm in a financial bind. She tells me not to ask her for money, and she won't ask me for any? Not to sound bratty, but I feel it's unfair, especially since I have no choice but to give her my money, and she never pays me back, but she expects me to pay her back. I'm just waiting to go back to college at the end of July, because I know I won't have to struggle there since I'll have both of my jobs. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already.